Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Patrick Irvin and I am pleased to welcome you to today's webinar on empowering educators and students to meet the new science standards. Before we begin, it's an excellent time to review some of the technical aspects of today's presentation. Please check the audio settings on your computer as well as your speaker volume settings if you're having any audio trouble. If you're still having issues, there's a detailed audio troubleshooting file available in the resource list beneath the Q&A window. And there are some other icons located at the bottom of the webinar console that will open up additional panels where you can read about today's speakers in the speaker bio panel and access a resource list to download a copy of today's slides. If you'd like to submit a question to our speakers for them to answer during the Q&A session, you can type them into the Q&A box located above the resource list window. There's going to be time towards the end to answer as many questions as possible. And finally, there's an on-demand archive of today's presentation that will be made available within the next 24 hours. There'll be an archive and a free download version of the PowerPoint, and those will be accessible through edweek.org. Today, we are very happy to have Carrie Neary and Melissa Douglas from the Rockford Public Schools in Illinois to present for us. Carrie is currently the Executive Director of Curriculum at Rockford Public Schools. Carrie provides all students with the opportunity to learn standards through skill-based instruction. She's committed to supporting teachers in the implementation of a standards-based curriculum and assessment framework to measure growth in all students. Carrie is in her 19th year in education. We have Melissa, who is currently the Dean of Elementary Literacy for Rockford Public Schools. Melissa provides all students with a learning environment that is rich in literacy instruction. Melissa has experience in education consisting of classroom instructions in grades 1 through 8. She's supported teachers for 3 years as a literacy coach and currently serves as an adjunct professor of content area reading at Rockford University. And Melissa is also a National Board Certified teacher in the area of content literacy for ages 3 through 12. Melissa believes that all students are capable of growing in literacy, becoming critical thinkers, and all deserve the opportunity to engage in learning that is both rigorous and meaningful. So, as you all saw when you registered for this webinar, we're going to talk about the new science standards required by educators to shift to an interdisciplinary approach to bring about deeper student understanding and achievement. And we're going to learn how Rockford helps their students meet the new standards through modular units that present real-world problems and provide opportunities for students to apply solutions. So that's where we're going today. I want to thank you all for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over now to Carrie to give us an overview of her district and her district's contexts. So, Carrie, take it away and tell us about Rockford.
Great, thank you, Patrick. So a little bit about Rockford Public Schools. As you can see, we're a very large district. We have 28,000 plus students in our pre-K-12 system. And we currently have 44 schools. We currently, across the district, we have 26 elementary schools, with 3 of those schools being special program schools, Montessori, a gifted academy, and a 2-way language immersion school. Next year we will have 24 elementary schools as we consolidate some of our schools and some of our older buildings. We are one of the largest districts in Illinois. We're located in northern Illinois, not very far from Wisconsin. And my department, we have a curriculum department of 9 that really supports the teaching and learning in our system, K-12. We also have a early childhood department that my department collaborates with regularly in order to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our pre-K students and then of course getting them prepared to come into our system with starting in kindergarten. And so that's just a little bit about our district. where we are as a district, I've tried to outline here, show you a snapshot of our strategic plan. And our goal in our community is to be the first choice for all families. And we want our families to choose Rockford Public Schools instead of maybe looking elsewhere at private schools. And so to do that, when we created our strategic plan, we came up with 5 goals. Our current strategic plan that you see before you is we're in year 4. It was developed in the fall, or began in the fall of 2015. Prior to the development of the strategic plan, we conducted a district-wide self-assessment to determine those 5 strategic goals that you see, which are growth and achievement, engaging partnerships, climate and culture, quality staff, and then fiscal and operational stewardship. Through that self-assessment, we determined that really our top priority is student growth and achievement, and so that is why that became Goal 1. My department, the curriculum department, really supports Goal 1, along with support and collaboration from our special education department, our bilingual department, our early childhood department, and our grants department. And the curriculum department leads the work for strategies 1 and 2, which are curriculum alignment and differentiated instruction. Within our team, within our team of 9, we have 8 curriculum deans and then myself. And so we have content area deans, and then we also have a dean of differentiation. And so our content area deans really lead that work of curriculum alignment. And then our dean of differentiation is supporting, that MTSS process and how do we provide access to high quality instruction and grade level standards for all of our students. As part of our strategic plan for Goal 1, we designed a curriculum design process that our team follows, and like I said, we're in year 4 of this. And so we're really excited with the process that we designed and with the progress we've made. So to develop this process that you see before you, and I'll walk you through it in a few moments, the curriculum department partnered with teachers, with our teacher union, and members of that union and members of our teaching teams from from early childhood all the way up through 12th grade, to research and build this design process that all content areas could use. Our system assessment that we did before our strategic plan really showed us that we were lacking in a guaranteed and viable curriculum, both horizontally and vertically. With the number of schools that we have, we saw in different classrooms, different 3rd grade classrooms across the district, very different things happening. And so we really had to come together and say, how are we going to horizontally align? And then also, how are we going to vertically align? So we have that pre-K through 12 system. So one of our goals was really to create this system that could apply across and vertically, but then also for all content areas. And so we didn't want to design a system that only worked for literacy or only worked for math. We wanted it to work for everything. And so with this team of curriculum department members, principals, and teachers, we created a 5-year plan that encompasses all curriculum. So as you can see on the screen, really what we do based on our curriculum audit is we determine a need. And so then the first step after we determine a need of curriculum review is to form a team. And that team consists of 5 to 6 teachers per grade level, and then also is led by the curriculum dean. And so later, Melissa will talk about our integrated literacy curriculum in more detail. And so she's the dean that's been leading this work for a couple of years in collaboration with our science and social science deans. But so we form those teams, and then we spend a lot of time within the first year of our process with that team in steps 2 and 3, which is that understanding and implementing standards and then determining assessment methods and practices. And so our teams spend a lot of time digging into their standards, talking about what they really mean and what students are asked to do. And then we break those standards down into learning targets aligned to Webb's depth of knowledge. So we have scaffolded targets that can support students, whether they need enrichment or whether they need intervention because they are lacking in some type of skill. We also then create assessment banks that our PLCs can use for their common assessments in order to track student progress along the way. Our teams then move into, really steps 3 and 4, and sometimes, steps 4 and 5. Sometimes 4, aligning instructional practices, comes first. Sometimes reviewing resources comes first. Those can kind of flip-flop. But those 2 next steps are really determining what are those best instructional practices in order to teach our learning targets, to make sure that our students are meeting the standards, and then what are the best resources that we could find and then purchase for our classrooms in order to make sure we can teach those standards and those learning targets, and to make sure that our students are ready for our assessments. Those 2 things really kind of happen in year 2 of our design process, and so each of our teams really make a 3-year commitment. And so then it's in year 3 that we usually roll out the curriculum, and we're working through that system for continuous improvement. And so our teams are still meeting. They're taking feedback from the field. I'll talk a little bit in a moment about some of what our deans do and in terms of how to make sure that they're staying on top of implementation and how to support teachers. And then we're really kind of, we're modifying as we go through that first year. And what we've seen in our rollout is our first year definitely has the most modifications. And then as we're into year 2 or year 3 of rollout, like we are in math curriculum this year in our district, we're not seeing as many modifications, and we're really being able to systematize our implementation. So the question is, why did our district need a shift? And in terms of literacy, and that's really what our focus is today around the science standards, was that what we saw in our elementary schools is our students did not have enough classroom time to engage in all of their content learning. We have a short elementary school day, and it was really hard for our teachers within a literacy block in their schedule, with a math block in their schedule, to always get the necessary time in for science, social science, and health. And so our teams then really came together, those teams of teachers and our deans that worked together to say we need to integrate. That will be the best way that we can make sure we teach all of these standards within that literacy framework. And so we've created an integrated literacy framework that really contains 4 content areas. So it has the standards, our ELA Common Core standards. It has the NGSS science standards. Illinois has adopted the C3 framework for social science, and so we have those standards embedded, and then we have our health standards. And so all of those standards are embedded within our curriculum for integrated literacy and are explicitly taught. I think the fear is when we do this that there might be something that gets left behind. Each content area and each standard within that content area is explicitly taught throughout each grade level in order to make sure that all of our students have access to all of our standards. In order to support this rollout, we've provided a couple of different professional development opportunities and professional learning support for our teachers. Integrated literacy is new for us this year. We are in year 1 of curriculum rollout for our integrated literacy curriculum. And so this was a big shift for our teachers. And so this past summer, we offered 2-day trainings in the summer of professional development. Those 2-day trainings are optional. Our teachers can choose to come to those during the summer months. And really we focused on a curriculum overview, what is it, how does it look, how do you access it, how do you teach and lesson plan in this integrated way, and then also gave them access to their new resources. And Melissa will talk a little bit more about our resources when she gets into our integrated literacy framework in more depth, but we really adopted 3 resources for our students, and so Melissa will talk about those. And we then spend those 2 days really digging into that. Then on our institute days, which are required, professional learning for our teachers at the start of the year, we offered half-day sessions. And so our teachers that maybe were unable to come during the summer because it might have been a family vacation week, they can still get an overview, not as in-depth, but they could still get an overview for that half-day of an institute day. We also then have embedded professional development throughout the year. One of the ways that we're doing that is by building visits, having building visits from our curriculum dean. Melissa Douglas, who you'll be hearing from soon, has spent countless hours and countless days in every single one of our elementary schools. And so far she is completing round 2 of being in every school for at least a full day, providing feedback, providing lesson design support, listening to teachers, helping them problem solve around this new way of teaching and this new integrated curriculum. We also have instructional coaches at 24 of our 26 elementary schools. Next year we will have them at all. But we do have instructional coaches to support this implementation as well. And so our curriculum department meets regularly with our instructional coaches. They have spent a lot of time. They were one of our groups that helped us design lessons this fall to provide more support for our teachers and additional lesson samples that really would help them dig in and learn more about how to use this curriculum. And then our instructional coaches lead our teachers through learning cycles where they set a goal around the curriculum, and then they give a pre-assessment. They track student data as they're in the learning cycle, and then helps our teachers give a post-assessment to really look at our student growth. And so our coaches are doing that with teacher teams for work embedded within our curriculum. And then our next step, which is something we're going to be doing starting this summer and into the next school year, is we have adopted Schoology as our LMS, and so Melissa has created a Schoology online module for teachers to take that will help them not only learn about the new curriculum if they're, say, new to our district, but also for teachers who have been in our district and who would like a deeper dive and would like some of that blended learning in terms of creating lesson plans, creating additional assessments for their classroom, and getting some feedback and support from Melissa and from their colleagues. So we're really excited about that next step. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa now, who will go into more depth about the curriculum itself and as well as the resources that we have. So Melissa, I'll send it over to you.
All right, thanks, Carrie. So at this time, there are going to be some handouts that you probably want to have available. So the first one I'm going to refer to is actually at the very top. It states cross-cutting concepts are the backbone to integrated literacy. So, you might be wondering, okay, you have 4 different content areas. How on earth do you integrate 4 content areas? And Carrie referred to that with integrated literacy. The way that the curriculum leadership team and the dean decided to do this was through the 7 cross-cutting concepts from NGSS. So if you refer to the handout, you will see like some student-friendly definitions of all 7 cross-cutting concepts, and they really serve as the backbone to this curriculum, and they really allow for content that may not seem related on the surface to be taught within the same theme. The other thing that we've used are from the social science standards. So if you look at the bottom of that handout, and they're also listed here on the slide, you'll see that these essential skills that are a part of the social science standards are also very evident in the ELA standards, if you're familiar with those at all. Asking students to ask and answer questions, to conduct research, investigation, to use evidence to support their claims, and then to demonstrate knowledge. So really with the cross-cutting concepts, the essential skills from social science, and then ELA, really like the foundation of this work, it all came together pretty nicely. So the next thing I'm going to refer to is just a little sample here. So on this slide, again, the cross-cutting concepts are the backbone to our framework. So on this slide, you're going to see a few different examples. So, it might seem difficult to teach content about genetics and geography at the same time. But if we connect these 2 contents to the idea of patterns, which is one of the 7 cross-cutting concepts, then our students are able to make connections during this theme of instruction. The idea that children tend to look like their parents, or that there are often large bodies of water near large cities, and just recognizing patterns in those things. From an ELA lens, teachers and students can talk about how there are different patterns within literature and how authors write text. And then the other example below there is related to scale, proportion, and quantity. So really, again, like the cross-cutting concepts really helped to bind, this work together. So the next handout you're going to want to look at is it's a year at a glance document, and we actually did give you the entire year at a glance for first grade. Carrie mentioned the fact that we're in year 1 of implementation. So for year 2, we are refining and revising, but this is currently what our year at a glance looks like. I did highlight a few things for you, just so you could see reference to the cross-cutting concept. And in this example, it's structure and function. And then I also highlighted the essential learning outcomes. So I'm going to just speak to this document a little bit here so you kind of understand what this looks like district-wide. So referring to the year at a glance document, you notice how the trimesters include the cross-cutting concepts. Something you should know, all 7 are taught each year in grades K really through 12 because our middle and high school students will also engage in the cross-cutting concepts. So within each trimester, there are 2 to 3 cross-cutting concepts, and then within each concept, there are 1 to 4 themes. And the expectation is for our teachers to go in order. And this creates continuity across the district. We have a lot of mobility in the district, so it is important that our students receive the grade level content in order. And though not every teacher is on the exact same page at the same time, the expectation of going in order creates, opportunity where most teachers are at the same point of instruction. You'll also notice the essential learning outcomes. We refer to those as our ELOs. These are the end goals within a theme. So we want students to be able to demonstrate understanding of the essential learning outcomes by the end of each theme. We also have newly aligned report cards this year. So this curriculum and the report card provide teachers the opportunity to really engage in on-purpose planning because our teachers are to plan from the learning targets. And the learning targets are all 4 standards, science, social science, ELA, and health, married together. And really that is how they get to the essential learning outcomes. So by having students engage in work that is directly related to the learning targets, they're getting to the point where they can achieve that essential learning outcome. And then the goal is that teachers assess the learning targets that they're teaching. So really it's all aligned, right? So the alignment is that our learning targets are driving planning and instruction and what students are being assessed on, and then we're directly communicating on those exact learning targets with our newly aligned report card. So that's how it looks as a district. If you then look at, what does this look like in our classroom, right? So it's kind of a big ask that we're talking about here. So I kind of want to break it down for you so you can learn a little bit about, what it looks like as far as planning and the resources. So we had the really great opportunity that Carrie referred to earlier to work with, to align resources to this new curriculum, and that allowed us an opportunity to really get authentic resources. So I'm going to speak to each one a little bit. So we have Define STEM as one of our resources, and they've been really great to work with because they have customized their learning tasks to our essential learning outcomes. The tasks are very engaging. They include rigorous text. So as the Dean of Elementary Literacy, I really appreciate that piece as well because even though many of our students might be reading below grade level, it's important that they have regular access and practice with rigorous texts. And another really great thing about Define STEM is that the learning tasks include multiple PowerPoints and video that really support building background knowledge for our students. And because we have such a large district, not every student is coming in with the same background knowledge. So in order to help students comprehend and understand the learning, we need to be able to connect that to their prior knowledge. And if they don't have that, then we need to build that background knowledge for them. And the learning tasks within Define STEM really provide a lot of support with that background piece. And then also, it's project-based. So this has really been exciting for our teachers and our students because they've been able to do a lot of different, hands-on learning, collaborative work, and things like that. Another resource that we have, almost kind of like a menu for our teachers to choose from, is from NSTA Picture Perfect Science. And with NSTA, it includes mentor texts that our teachers use during whole group instruction when they're modeling for our students what they should then be able to do independently. It also really supports inquiry, which is, again, a part of those essential skills within social science as well, not only science but also social science. And then again, those hands-on learning activities when students are kind of doing, those labs and those investigations. And then the other resource we have are from Follett. Our Follett text are really authentically aligned resources. Rigorous texts for students to engage in that are directly aligned to the content of the NGSS standards and the social science standards. So it's really exciting. So a lot of new resources that our students get to engage in and have the opportunity to learn from, and that our teachers are in year one really just getting very familiar with. And then also referring to that lesson, because hopefully you have it in front of you, I just highlighted a few points there, so you can see how, the cross-cutting concept is listed, how it's kind of broken down then into the theme. Then you have your essential learning outcomes. Another document that supports this lesson sample that you can have in front of you, you're going to see is are the learning targets, and it's titled Learning Targets for First Grade, Growing and Changing. And within the sample lesson, our teachers have the ability to click the links that then take them to this document. But I wanted to show you just how the learning targets are married together. So I highlighted a few just so you can see that really, the lesson starts by introducing that cross-cutting concept of stability and change. Because again, that is the backbone to this work. That is how our students are going to be able to connect the science and social science content together. And then from there, you're going to notice, I just highlighted a few things that were very specific to asking questions, inquiry, investigation, and then vocabulary that's specific to content. So just so you have, a little background there. So moving on, the other thing I wanted to speak to is about how it looks in the classroom beyond just this lesson sample. So the expectations for year one are that the students engage in at least one defined STEM task per trimester, and then also, and I think this is actually an error on the slide, so I apologize, but in year one they actually only have to also engage in one NSTA lesson per trimester. As far as year two moving forward, that might shift. I've learned from teachers and students that they've actually engaged in more than one task per trimester because they really enjoy the learning activities and they're just very engaging and exciting and new. But that's currently the expectation for the resources. All of this happens within a balanced literacy framework. So, we have our balanced literacy that includes that whole group instruction using those aligned resources, those texts. And then we have differentiation where our students are working in small groups with teachers at their level, meeting them where they are in their learning. And then every day they also have time to work independently. And that work includes things like vocabulary work, research, producing their learning through, writing or PowerPoint, collaboratively working with their peers. So every day this all happens within this balanced literacy framework. And then as far as planning, really kind of thinking about the resources like with Defined STEM and NSTA, the teachers sometimes will launch a theme with one of these tasks because, again, especially with Defined STEM, there's so much support for building background knowledge that our teachers have found it to be really helpful that students are having conversations around this theme and this new idea that they're about to explore and learn about. Some teachers do choose to use it at the end of the theme, kind of as like a culminating task because each learning task has an end product that students can work on. And that kind of varies as well in the classroom. Some teachers have students do projects together because we're in year one and the teachers are learning this resource. I often encourage them, if they're kind of feeling a little uncomfortable with the new resource, to do it whole group and then have all of the students do the exact same product at the end of the learning task. So it really can look a variety of ways. They kind of have a different menu of options to choose from and really honors that art of teaching. And yeah, some teachers also do it whole group, and then some of them just do it during student independent learning activities. The picture that you're seeing in front of you right now is from one of our schools, and the students were building their sister city after learning, doing a defined STEM learning task where they got to learn, about design and things like that. So obviously they look like they're enjoying their final products. So just so you can kind of see and hear from a student, we're going to go ahead and let you watch a video. The following student is in one of our elementary buildings. This actually took place in the fall, and I think she does a much better job explaining how exciting and fun this integrated literacy curriculum is and how it looks in action.
Hi.
You're in 3rd grade with Mrs. Conklin, and I know you were all working on an integrated literacy project, right? What was your project? What did you have to do for your project?
We had to make a backpack for a shark.
For a shark. How did you start with that?
Well, we first we did a T-chart and wrote down the things for like the shark and how they for characteristics and survival skills.
Okay, so this is your sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was this for your whole group, Chloe, or just you?
I did that one by myself, but my whole group helped us work on the backpack.
And what is your favorite characteristic on here?
Camouflage.
And that's the characteristics. How does that help with survival?
Blending in with stuff like seaweed.
Oh, when they're underwater, huh? Yeah. Boy, you have a lot of them here. Good for you. And really nice writing too, Chloe. I can read all that. So then you got together with your group, and other people had different things on theirs.
Yes.
And then from that, what did you do?
And then we started to just kind of talk about our ideas, and we started just drawing like a little backpack to see, to like do just like a little copy to see what our final backpack would look like.
Did everyone have different ideas?
Yes.
Or the same ideas?
Some of them were the same, and most of them were different.
Oh, so you had to agree?
Mm-hmm.
Was that hard?
Not really.
Okay.
It was really pretty easy.
Pretty good? Okay. So this is your project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about this. What did you decide? It's called the Attack Pack?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There was a tracker up on the top. It's to find a shiver. A shiver is a group of sharks if it gets lost.
Oh.
And then there are little jet rockets to get away from predators.
Wow.
And there are also a strap to like hook onto the shark. It's kind of like a snap bracelet almost. And then below that is a little keychain. It's like a silver keychain that attracts fish for the shark.
Oh, so it gets food closer to them.
Yes, and then when that attracts the fish, there are nets to catch on the back of the backpack to catch the food for the shark to eat. And when the nets are all full, it'll stop working, and then the shark can eat it.
Oh my gosh.
There's lots of pockets for the fish to go in for the shark, and some sharks eat like plankton, so there's a pocket for that.
Okay.
And there's also a little oven for the shark to eat fish. They can just cook the fish.
To cook the fish?
And I think that might be it.
Okay. Wow. How long did this take you to do?
This took probably a couple days, like a day or two.
Okay. And your thinking took a couple days, right?
Yeah, I think it took 2 days.
Okay.
2 days.
Did you like doing it?
Mm-hmm. It was really fun.
And did you feel like you learned a lot?
Yes.
Yes? And does it make you want to know more about sharks?
Yes.
So maybe when you go to the library, you could get something, huh? And find out some
Yeah,
more.
I actually have a shark book in there too.
That you already got?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you so much.
welcome.
You did a great job. Thanks, Chloe.
Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed watching one of our students talk about her learning task. Since then, I've seen quite a few videos actually of teachers and students talking about, their defined STEM learning tasks and their projects and the collaborative work that they're engaging in. And it is really exciting to see. And it's just so, student-led, which I love. So Year 1 progress, I just wanted to share a little bit with you about that. Teachers are getting more comfortable. It's been a really big shift, not just with the curriculum and the resources, but also, instructionally as well. So they're getting more comfortable. The feedback I've received during building visits has been really helpful to know how to support moving into Year 2. And the conversations with teachers are really starting to move from, how do I do this, to can I have feedback from you, or here are my ideas I'd like to share. And that's been really exciting for us in the curriculum department. And they're also starting to, collaborate with their colleagues and engage in some problem solving around, what is this going to look like in my classroom next year? What might I tweak? What will I keep the same? What is my schedule going to look like? And then how do we really want to start to assess the learning targets and this curriculum? As far as next steps, we do have more customized tasks coming from Define STEM, so I know that the teachers and the curriculum department is really excited about that. I'm sure they're going to be, directly aligned to our essential learning outcomes. And we are also going to get more text for students so that they have, more books in front of them, whether it's for close reading or, just learning more about the content of science and social science. So that's going to be really exciting for our kids. And then also just, some really practical things that we've learned in Year 1 is working out like the logistics around ordering supplies and how we're going to support the buildings so that we can make sure moving into Year 2 that they have the supplies that they need and, the consumables are being replaced. And then also just ongoing feedback from the teachers and even from students and parents will allow us to, just continue to make this curriculum better so that we can, refine and revise and then support our teachers through more ongoing professional developments. So at this point, I think I'm going to go ahead and move it on to Patrick.
Great, thank you. Carrie, Melissa, thank you so much for your insight and telling us the story of Rockford's success. I think our audience got some great insights and ideas about the way you're approaching this, and I'm sure they're going to have some great questions for the Q&A portion. But before we take those questions, I want to explain a little bit about Define STEM. Define STEM is an online K-12 project-based learning solution that provides engaging, authentic lessons built around careers. Our interdisciplinary, standards-aligned projects offer opportunities for students to deepen their understanding and apply their knowledge in real-world scenarios. We designed this to enhance core curriculum to save teachers time, so we provide everything teachers need to implement and assess the interdisciplinary performance tasks. We also have engaging videos, research resources, as well as a project and portfolio assessment manager, and there's a lot more to it. But in this time frame, I'm just going to give you a real high level. Our framework of Define STEM follows the Understanding by Design model from Jay McKay to provide teachers with a planning process and a structure for implementing the useful standards-based performance tasks. Each task starts with a real-world video that shows the practical application of STEM concepts within a company or an industry. We then ask teachers and students to conduct performance tasks following the GRASP model. Our process follows 5 steps. It's career exposure. We do this through the real-world video. Again, we feature professionals in a wide range of careers discussing how they use knowledge and skills from all content areas in their everyday work. Second step, solve a real-world problem. Again, using performance tasks, which serves as an authentic project that can be utilized by taking into consideration the many different ways that students learn. Step 3, collaborate and think critically through the actual product creation process. We provide the plans within each task that students can follow, that teachers can use. And then finally, we have the student portfolio and reflection piece. And that's done in our project and portfolio manager. Define STEM projects create excitement about Define STEM career opportunities and empower students to build 21st century skills that they will need to succeed in college, careers, and life. And that's Define STEM in a nutshell. Thank you again for allowing me to discuss Define STEM. And now we're going to take a few minutes to answer some of your questions. I have questions here. I'm just going to throw them out to Carrie and Melissa. Either both or one of you can answer it. The first question comes from New York, from Kate. She asks, I'm curious to learn more about the interdisciplinary approach and how it's similar to and or different from STEAM.
Yeah, so this is Melissa. I'll go ahead and take this one. Well, they're different because STEAM integrates science and technology interpreted through engineering and the arts, all based in mathematical elements, whereas integrated literacy teaches science, social science, and health content through literacy. They're similar because they both create student-driven learning environments, which fosters inquiry, problem-solving, collaboration, and innovation.
All right. The second question from Virginia is from Ron. He asks, how is the integrity of individual disciplines retained in an integrative STEM approach, i.e. alignment to content, skills, and standards? No, go ahead.
Sorry, Patrick. Sorry about that. So one thing that we've done through this curriculum is we wanted to make sure that we didn't lose those specific concepts from and the specific standards from all of the disciplines. And so Melissa mentioned in her part of the presentation that one of the things that we've done is revised our standards-based report card to make sure it reflects our integrated literacy piece as well. So within our integrated literacy framework, we have our learning targets that are aligned to different parts of the standards. And so we have learning targets aligned to the cross-cutting concepts, and then learning targets aligned to the science concepts, which might be where more of those science and engineering practices come in, or some of those disciplinary core ideas. We also then have learning targets aligned to our social science concepts, which includes both the social science skills as well as the social science content. And then we have learning targets for literacy aligned to reading concepts, writing concepts, and vocabulary concepts. And so all of these, we have learning targets for all of them throughout our curriculum for every grade level. And then our grade level report cards are specific, and they have specific descriptors and competencies on each of these areas. So then our teachers can gather evidence throughout the year and then provide your report card score as one way of providing feedback to parents in terms of where their students are in mastering those different skills from all of the different content areas.
Great, thank you. Next question is from New York. Melvin asks, how do we integrate the new NGSS with other subjects, particularly math?
So, well, as you can hear for what we said today, our focus really has been literacy. However, by using the cross-cutting concepts as the backbone of this curriculum, we can integrate not only literacy, science, social science, and health, but we can also pull in math. This is where we use the cross-cutting concepts because this would be where we could really connect the content from science and social science. It also provided us a way to start some thematic units because our teachers were very comfortable with that and our teachers found value in that. And so this was a way to create a thematic unit. And so then within our classroom and within our school day, teachers can then integrate all of these things together around those cross-cutting concepts and around those themes. We have started the work a little bit of starting to pull some of our math concepts in as well. Not so much into the full integrated literacy framework because we do have separate time in our day for a math block, but we're also trying to create project-based learning experiences for our students that encompass not only the integrated literacy standards, but also then the math standards. And so our teachers can work on projects with our students for all of those things at one time for students to really demonstrate their understanding and their learning.
All right. Next question from Ohio comes from Belinda. What is the best way to help teachers realize that this is indeed different from what they are already doing?
Yeah, that is a really great question because you know, change is really hard. So just trying to build capacity and understanding for teachers is really important so that they just get more comfortable with the curriculum. So integrated literacy has not only been a shift in curriculum by ensuring that all the content areas are taught and practiced each day, but a lot of the instructional shifts have changed as well because this curriculum fosters learning environments in which students are really doing the heavy lifting. You know, they're the ones doing the questioning, the collaboration, the problem solving, and the rigorous reading, along with these hands-on activities. So these instructional shifts have also been something that teachers are starting to, you know, really understand and create in their classrooms. And the resources being used to model instruction are also authentic and aligned to the new standards. So there are quite a few things that are really different from what teachers were already doing. And some areas are also the same, which I think, I'm hoping that, you know, teachers have found comfort in, you know, meeting students where they are in their learning and things like that. That part has stayed the same.
All right, thank you. Let's see, next up we have Suzanne from Massachusetts. She asks, how can we make this style of learning fit well with required curricula in a reasonable amount of time?
Yeah, so that is something that we have really tried to support during our school visits, just having conversations with instructional coaches, teachers, and then principals, because it is a big ask to do all of, to accomplish, you know, all of these learning targets and essential learning outcomes. And in year one, you know, I don't even know that we're going to be able to get through all of them because it's just been such a shift for everybody. And I think we'll be further along in year two. As far as getting it into the daily, you know, time frame that we have, I kind of spoke to that a little bit earlier because really this all happens within this balanced literacy framework. So it happens within what we call our integrated literacy block. And this allows time for, you know, multiple opportunities for students to engage in that whole group learning where they work with the teacher in this gradual release of responsibility model. You know, the teacher demonstrates, then they do it together, and then the students practice. And they're doing that whole group instruction with these aligned resources that have aligned, you know, content from science and social science. And then they have their small group instruction where the teacher is meeting the students where they are, but they also have opportunity within that small group time to engage in texts that are also related to the content. You know, if they can pull in articles or excerpts or leveled readers that have science and social science content, and then also the idea of referring to the cross-cutting concept during their small group instruction with teachers. And then when students are working independently, you know, they have time to practice these skills and really engage in authentic learning that is supported, you know, with the defined STEM tasks or the NSTA projects. And just really giving the students time each day to engage in research that they want to investigate from their questions that they've asked, and create their projects and their designs, and then just developing ways to communicate what they've learned through writing or presentations and things like that. So yeah, it has been a big ask, but we're trying to support buildings and teachers with their schedules by having them engage in this work during this balanced literacy framework, during integrated literacy blocks.
Great. All right. I think we have time for, let's see, 2 more questions that just came in, so we'll hit those. First one comes from Jennifer. She says, integration through cross-cutting concepts and C3 essential skills is an amazing structure using the excellent literacy curriculum. When and how do K-5 students have the opportunity to further meet the NGSS shifts of doing rather than reading about science, or figuring out rather than learning about the natural and designed world?
So that opportunity for students is really built into the schedule each day. So like when the students have time to work and problem solve is when they are actually engaging in the work from NGSS. And because our resources are aligned to the standards and the new curriculum, then the tasks that the students are working on are directly aligned to the standards. So like the NSTA resource, for example, is directly aligned to the NGSS standards. So all of the tasks that our students do with the NSTA resource has the inquiry, the questioning, the engaging, the engineering, and they're building things. And when things fall apart, then they're rebuilding them and they're having conversations about it. So that is built into the day. I don't know, Carrie, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, and I think with our within that framework, and I know we're calling it, integrated literacy, but they are definitely doing more, than just writing about or reading about science or even social science concepts, and then even that hands-on. So inquiry is at the backbone of our curriculum, and we actually have within our curriculum, we actually have learning targets, not only around the concepts from science and social science and the cross-cutting concepts, but we have learning targets where we assess students, teach and then assess students on how well do they ask questions and make sense of problems, how well they gather sources and use evidence, and then how well they communicate their conclusions or how well they take evidence-based action. So that's also part of our curriculum framework through integrated literacy. And so they're doing some of those things when they are doing those hands-on either NSTA, sometimes our NSTA projects that are within that, or our defined STEM projects that our students are doing. They're being able to show those different mastery of those learning targets as well.
Great, thank you. I think this is our last question from Jacques. He's asking, what are the primary driving factors for when you select a provider for quality science supplies? NGSS alignment, hands-on, easy to use, cost, connections to life skills, building social and emotional learning.
Melissa, I can take that. So when as part of our curriculum design process, when we get to the point of selecting resources, whether it's for science or whether it's for any, we have a really clear process that we follow. And so we actually have a rubric that has been created by the dean and the curriculum leadership team of teachers, and it asks them to review and evaluate resources aligned to the essential learning outcomes and learning targets within our curriculum. And so all of those are broken out, and teachers really go through resources with a fine-tooth comb to identify how many of the essential learning outcomes and learning targets can actually be met by using this resource. So when we talk about science, we're definitely looking for that NGSS alignment. We are looking for hands-on in terms of for our learning targets for inquiry. So that way we are making sure that we're selecting resources that provide students the opportunity to ask their own questions and make sense of problems and take evidence-based action, those types of things. We definitely look at things like easy to use, but that's not as much of a factor because we can do training on that. Cost is a factor, but that actually comes after we determine the best resource for alignment. And so our goal as part of our strategic plan is to make sure that we increase student achievement through a an aligned curriculum, and so in order to do that, we have to have the best resource possible. And so cost doesn't come first. And then we do look at, some things around, social, emotional, or life skills in terms of kind of an ancillary piece. But our goal when selecting science resources, for example, that wouldn't be necessarily first on our list around the social emotional piece. However, we do want to focus on things like collaboration and building students' ability to collaborate with each other. That is one of our kind of focus areas as a district around instruction, and so we're also looking for things like that, which we know can impact their life skills and their social emotional learning.
Great, thank you. Carrie, Melissa, just want to thank you guys, and thank you everyone for submitting questions. But because we're running out of time, we're going to try to incorporate answers to as many of these as possible through our follow-up communication with all of you. So again, Melissa, Carrie, thank you very much. Everyone who attended, I want to thank you as well. I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Thank you.